Thinking of this, Fredman looked at Wendy, smiled suddenly, and said, "Wendy, you will be better dressed tomorrow. Come with me to see a friend." It's rare for Wendy to see Fredman smiling and talking to her these days. She was happy, and nodded hurriedly, not knowing what Fredman was thinking about. The next day, the news of the disappearance of the Gao family old man and his son is still spreading throughout the city. However, Claire and Elaine didn't take it seriously, because Charlie had already said that these two people absconded in fear of crime. Since it is a crime to abscond, it is natural to evaporate the world. Fredman contacted the eldest young master of the Wei family in advance, and in the evening, took Wendy to the box of the Orus Hill Family Club, anxiously awaiting the arrival of the other party. Wendy dressed up very beautifully today. She is wearing a black hip skirt worth 100,000. Not only did she show the curves of her body, she also deliberately showed the career line on her chest, and she also painted heavy makeup on her face. Although she is much worse than Claire, Warnia and other women, after being well dressed, coupled with revealing clothes, she can still make most men feel impatient. She was even a little excited when she heard that she was coming to see the young master of the Wei family. Although the Wei family is not a top family in Orus Hill, it is still much stronger than the Wilson family. Now that the Wilson family is lonely, Wendy also hopes that she can get to know more wealthy people. If she finds a good opportunity, she may be able to bring some improvement to the family. After the two waited in the box for a while, the door of the box was suddenly pushed open. A middle-aged man in an Armani suit walked in. The man combed his head and looked wretched. He also carried a Patek Geraldippi watch on his wrist. Behind him, followed by a man carrying a bag, about 1 or 2 years younger than him, looking like an assistant. Fredman stood up, smiled and said, "Oh, Brother Wei, sit inside." The middle-aged man smiled and said to Fredman, "Fredman, you are a very busy man. You used to come to Orus Hill for a long time. Why suddenly you have time to ask me? It really flattered me, my little brother." As he said, he saw Wendy beside Fredman, and his eyes lit up suddenly. So he smiled and said to Fredman, "I said, Mr. Wilson, who is this beauty? You don't introduce her to your brother." Fredman pulled Wendy over and said with a smile, "Come on, Brother Wei, let me introduce to you. This is my niece, Wendy." It turns out to be President Wilson's niece. No wonder she is so beautiful. When Wei heard this, he smiled and nodded, a greedy look flashed in his eyes, and he reached out to Wendy and said, "Miss Wilson, lucky to meet you." Fredman said to Wendy, "Wendy, this is Baraina Wei, the general manager of Ouija Pharmaceutical. Ouija Pharmaceutical is a well-known pharmaceutical company in Orus Hill, and it is very powerful." Wendy also hurriedly shook hands with the other party, and said, "Hello, Mr. Wei." Baraina Wei greedily touched Wendy's hands twice, then took off his coat and threw it to the man dressed as an assistant behind him. The assistant missed one, and his jacket fell to the ground. Baraina Wei's eyes flashed with a look of disgust, and he glared at him and cursed, "Rubbish. This little thing can't be done. Sorry, brother, it's all my fault. Don't be angry." The man's face was pale. He quickly picked up his jacket and wiped the dust off. He didn't say it, but Baraina Wei became even more upset when he said this. He walked to the front and slapped him and said coldly, "Liang Wei, how many times have I said that you were born and raised by a mounter? Be it starred, there is no right to call me eldest brother. Get out and wait for me." Liang Wei was slapped, but he didn't dare to refute. As if he had been used to it, he nodded humbly and said, "I know that, big brother." After speaking, he hurried out of the box. What a disappointment, D***mn it. Baraina Wei said something cursively. Fredman on the side said curiously, "Brother Wei, is this your rubbish brother?" Baraina Wei said coldly, "It's just a wild species, not my brother." After finishing speaking, he looked at Wendy greedily, smiled and asked, "Ms. Wendy is so beautiful, do you have a boyfriend?" When Wendy heard this, she did not answer Barena Wei's question, but looked at Fredman awkwardly. She dare not say that she has no boyfriend, because she is Fredman's lover after all. But she did not dare to say that she was Fredman's lover to outsiders. After all, Fredman had a family and a room, and she would not be able to see it. In case she made her own way and said she was his lover and caused him trouble, it would be finding something for yourself. However, what she didn't expect was that Fredman was very generous at this time. He smiled and said to Barena Wei directly, "Brother Wei, let's tell you, Wendy is actually my lover, but you have to be tight-lipped and don't tell others." Barena Wei suddenly felt a little regretful. He thought it was Fredman's niece, but he didn't expect that the niece was just a cover, but in fact she was a lover. Although he fell in love with Wendy, he didn't dare to steal a woman from Fredman, so he could only dispel the thoughts in his heart. Fredman naturally saw his performance in his eyes, smiled quietly, and started talking with Barena Wei. He deliberately asked Barena Wei, "By the way, Brother Wei, how is your dad's health lately?" Barena Wei sighed and said, "It's not so good. The old master had too many romantic debts when he was young. Now he has been punished, and his body is worse than every day.